Hi. Oh, maybe getting that snow indoors. Oh. Today's topic is one of the more difficult concepts. It's time management. This is usually an efficiency issue, and it is unfortunate how the lack of ability for some to manage one's time can negatively impact someone's life, even dramatically. There is a mentality that one needs to have for successful time management, and some don't have it. It starts with a desire to be efficient, which means accomplishing goals with the least amount of stress to one's resources. Generally, we have a limited amount of time and money and resources to do things, whether they be professional or personal tasks. Wasting time and money means less time and money to do other things. Thus, the problem with those who waste both is that they find their production inhibited and underwhelming, and as a result, they suffer in terms of goals and accomplishments. Quite simply, they do less than they could. There are some elementary principles to effective time management. Quite simple. It starts with the recognition of the fact that being more efficient with our time will allow us to produce more and enjoy more. Now, when put that way, why wouldn't anybody want both of those things happening all the time? We should, but some don't seem to pay attention to details. They are not conscious of the clock, meaning they are not factoring in time spent in determining which options works best for them. So we need the right mentality that constantly weighs the time component of our choices. Too often, some will use other criteria in making their choices but ignore the time component. There is an old adage that time means money, and it often does. But it's more than that. Time management can impact our enjoyment beyond the money thing. Let's start off with some simple examples. Consider a person who goes to market from their home 4 times a week to shop. One path to the market takes 10 minutes, another takes 14 minutes. Some will often not distinguish that difference and take the slightly longer path because they don't think in those terms. The problem is those extra 4 minutes each direction becomes a half hour a week. Now, a half hour is a lot of time to waste in a week, especially when there might be other instances where a lack of effective time management costs the individual cumulatively a few hours in a week. If effective time management can save us hours in a week, those are hours that can be used to be more productive professionally. It might give us more time to enjoy ourselves with our families and friends. There is a time component to almost everything that we choose to do. Thus, the value of effective time management is enhanced. If by better time management one can save a couple hours a week, that might mean more overtime pay or more time to be entrepreneurial. Who doesn't want more time for one's recreations, more time for a family activity involving a spouse, a child, a parent, or more time for our friends? So our enjoyment of life can be seriously impacted by our lack of paying attention to time management. Now, we have varying speeds as far as activities go as individuals. Some do take longer to do things, whether it be thinking or physically moving. We all have to deal with our capabilities and capacities. But I feel that capacity and capability are often confused. There are people who are slower moving because their capabilities are less. However, often the slower moving person loses time not because of capacity issues as much as bad training or bad conditioning. In the worst case, it becomes because of laziness. So if a person moves relatively slower in activities because that is their true capacity, then fine, that is the way it is, and we all have to deal with our limitations, and we all have them. However, I find that people also can move slower because of both laziness, which is real bad, or because they haven't gotten the time management memo, which I'm now sending to you. You cannot become efficient time managers unless you reflect on it and make it a factor in every choice that you make. You must weigh all the options and consequences and not ignore the time factor. Now, a final piece of the time management puzzle is to become familiar with time management trade-offs. So let's assume an individual has the time management awareness in order, and they try to more effectively use their time. Still, we have to weigh time versus other factors. Money is one of them. Suppose we decide to travel to another location. We can spend 4 hours driving, and our expense might be $40. Or we can take a 3-hour train, and our expense might be $120. Or we can fly, and the trip would be 2 hours, but the expense jumps up to $220. So which do we do? In this example, there's a dollar expense trade-off versus time and effort. So one has to have one's own personal trade-off scale to make the best choices, and that will vary from person to person. The money factor is related to one's financial health. The effort factor is related to one's taste and capabilities. For example, driving will require the most personal effort, but some people like to drive, and they derive pleasure out of driving, so their trade-off scale can look different from the one who doesn't care to drive at all. Thus, one must factor all this into time management. One more example, and this is a big one. Suppose a person is living with their family in a place 5 minutes from work, and the opportunity to move to a larger place with all sorts of improved quality of life consideration occurs, but the 5-minute commute each way becomes 80 minutes. One thought might be that for a quality of life upgrade for the family, sacrifices have to be made. Thus, the longer commute will be endured. But let's consider the longer commute. That extra 75 minutes each way is an additional 12 and a half hours each week, which amounts to an extra 625 hours a year. That might be 30 days of wait time for that additional commute. So one needs to consider the stress of that extra commute as well as the greater absence from the family, where that might offset some of the improvement in quality of life. Thus, time management has to be considered. Maybe one compromises and moves a half hour away and gets a little less quality of life, but a whole lot more time to do things with the family. So the point is that one must have time management considerations. One must focus on it. You get the point? Time management is very important. Thank you very much. Have a good day.